So in this module, we have lesson 4, Azure App Service Plan, Azure App Services, Container Services. There are 3 lessons which we have. When it comes to App Service Plan means when we are going to host an application into Azure. So hosting an application, it requires a compute service, that means hardware, in which you will get virtual CPU and RAM storage and other services. So you have to purchase a compute app service plan, which is known as your app service plan first, and after then you will host your application on app service plan. So you can host one application or more than one application within the region where you purchase your app service plan. In the same region you can host more than one applications. That is also possible. Let me start this lesson and let's understand this lesson. So first, app service plan determines performance based on the service plan which you selected, price and features like custom domain support, SSL support, staging slots, and other features which you will get like isolation. Defines a set of compute resources for a web application to run, where we can run a web application. The reason where compute resource will be created first, number of virtual machines, instances you will select into your app service plan, size of your virtual machine instance which you will select into your app service plan, pricing tier which we will discuss on next slide. One or more apps can be configured to run in the same app service plan within the region. So should be in same region. When it comes to pricing will be based on the app service plan which you will select. First we have free app service plan in which you would be able to host 10 applications, either web, mobile or API application. Disk space, you will get 1 GB storage space. Auto scaling, that is not supported here. Deployment slots, that is also not supported. Maximum instances, manual scaling is also not supported here. Shared, which we can use into dev and test environment. We can host 100 applications. You will get 1 GB storage. No support for auto scaling, no support for deployment slots, no support for maximum instances. Basic, which we can use for dedicated dev and test, in which you will get unlimited application support, 10 GB storage. Auto scaling is not supported, deployment slots are not supported. Up to 3 instances we can increase, that is we can do manual scaling, but up to 3 instances. Standard, it's standard which we can use for production workload, where we would be able to host unlimited applications, 50 GB storage we will get. Auto scaling is supported, 5 deployment slots you will get, up to 10 instances we can add. Premium, which we can use for enhanced scale and performance. So if you need high performance infrastructure, you will go with premium. Unlimited application we can host, 250 GB storage we will get. Auto scaling is supported there, 20 deployment slots you will get, up to 30 instances we can increase, add. Isolated where you will get dedicated hardware. High performance, security and isolation, just because isolated means you will get a dedicated Azure virtual machine into a VNet, your VNet. Unlimited application hosting, 1 TB storage, auto scaling is supported, 20 deployment slots you will get, up to 100 instances we can add. So let's check next, scaling. So we can scale up, it means we can do vertical scaling, we can scale out, it means we can do horizontal scaling, we can perform both types of scaling. We can do manual scaling as well. Manually we can also scale an application. I will show you practically. Configuring app service plan scaling. So how we will configure auto scaling. So auto scaling, I'll show you how we will configure based on the metric threshold like we already configure for VM scale set by same way. So create and deploy a simple app service plan, review scaling options. I'll show you practically. I'm not going to review, I'm going to show you practically how we will do that, how we will configure scaling and how we will test scaling. Next, implementing Azure App Services. So whenever you will create an app service plan, on app service plan you will host an application where you can host .NET, Node.js, PHP, Java, Python, HTML or any container images. Includes web application, API application, mobile application and function applications, function apps. It's a fully managed environment enabling high productivity deployment. It means rather than focusing on underlying infrastructure, you will focus on your code, on your business continuity. That's why we're using Azure App Services, web apps. It's a platform as a service which offered of building and deploying highly available cloud apps for web application and mobile application. Platform handles infrastructure, so developer focus on core web app and services. Developer productivity using .NET Core, Java, Python, and host of others. Provide enterprise-grade security and compliance so that you can host your application and you can manage your application. How you will create an app service, I'll show you practically rather than reading slide. I'll show you practically all these options. Creating deployment slots. What is deployment slots? So deployment slots means assume we have an application. So whenever you will create an application, all requests from internet and users who will send requests to your application, all requests will be sent to production website. 100% request will be sent to production website. We have developers like developer 1, developer 2 who are pushing updates for updating your web application. So they will push update to your GitHub, to source control. And then GitHub is connected to your application. Let's forget about this part, staging part. So when the developers, they will push update to GitHub, which will be your source control. Now GitHub will apply all updates to your production website. If there would be any bug into your code, into developer's code, so there would be downtime or might be your application will be crash, which we don't want. So what we want first update should be applied to a staging slot. Correct, stage. So you will get a staging slot, which will be again a live URL where all updates will be applied. And after that you will test. That means software testing team, they will check vulnerabilities. Correct, they will check code. So they will test either manual or automatic using automatic tools. So quality assurance, correct. So after then, if there would be no bug, then you will swap your staging slot to production. That is also known as blue and green deployment into production. Blue and green deployment, or you can say alpha and beta deployment into production into your physical data center. So if there would be no bug, you will swap your staging slot to production and production website will be updated. Again, after update also, if there would be any bug, you can revert. That means vice versa process will be there. That is known as deployment slots. So we can create up to 5 deployment slots into standard, up to 20 into premium, up to 20 into isolated. Adding deployment slots, how you will add, I'll show you practically. So select whether to clone an application configuration from another deployment slot. You can clone also from other deployment slot. When you clone, pay attention to these settings. What type of settings? Slot specific app settings and connection strings which you are going to use. Continuous deployment settings, that means your source control. App service authentication settings, if you are cloning from other slots. Not all settings are sticky. So endpoints, which you have to change. Custom domain name, which you have to change. SSL certificate, you have to change. Scaling, you need to configure if you are cloning. Review and edit your settings before swapping. After then you can swap. I'll show you practically how we will do that. When it comes to authentication, by default, anonymous authentication will be enabled on Azure web application. Login with third-party identity providers like Facebook, Microsoft, Gmail, Instagram. So you can integrate your authentication with third-party identity providers as well. Security. Troubleshoot with diagnostic logs. Field request, app logging, all requests, all logs will be generated by your web application through which you would be able to troubleshoot. Add a SSL certificate for security. Define a priority order for allow and deny list to control network access to the application. It means firewall rules, ports and protocol. Store secrets into keyword. If you are exposing some password credential into your web application, so store your secrets into as a keyword for security reasons. Creating custom DNS. So Azure will give you a DNS name for web application, which will be provided by Azure website, .NET. But I'm not going to use Azure DNS. I will use my own DNS, xyz.com. In that case, we will create custom domain name where you have to create a CNAME and a record into your DNS providers console like GoDaddy and BigRock, from where you purchase your DNS. Or if you integrated your DNS on Azure, then in Azure you need to create CNAME and a record to map your name, and you would be able to access your web application using your name, like we have already done in module number 4. Backup, we can enable backup services also for Azure web application, create a backup manually or on a schedule. By default backup will be also enabled. Backup the configuration, file content and database content connected to the application. So if you have a web application and you have a database connected with your web application, you would be able to take 10 GB of backup of your web application and database. For database, you would be able to take backup of 4 GB. Requires a standard or premium plan. Backups can be up to 10 GB of application and database content. Configure partial backup, where you can exclude your items into the backup. You can restore your application on the demand using backup to a previous state, or you can create a new application also using your backup. Demonstration. So now I'm going to show you complete demonstration for app services up to architect level, up to deployment level. Correct? Let me show you. So go to portal, search app. Okay, you will get app services. Select app services. Click on create web application. Click on create new resource group M9RG1. Click on OK. Web application name. I'm going to, and it should be unique. Why? Just because if you see here Azure website.net. So this would be your DNS suffix which will be provided by Microsoft Azure for your web application. So whatever name you will type here, it should be globally unique. So let me type here Sanjay. Let me check this name is available or not. No. So Sanjay Cloud. Let me check this name. So Sanjay Cloud is available. So my web application name will be sanjaycloud.azurewebsite.net. That is okay. How I'm going to publish my website? Using code, Docker container images, or I'm going to publish a static website. So right now I'm going to use code. Let me click on drop down and let me select here .NET 6 LTS. You can select any. I'm going with .NET 6 LTS. My runtime basically. Operating system Windows for .NET. Region, I'm going to use Central India. So in Central India, there is no service plan available, app service plan. So we have to create a new app service plan, which you can see it will be created into Central India. If you want to explore other app service plan, you can click on explore pricing plans, where you would be able to see plan. We have two options, two filters, hardware view and feature view. Hardware, in which you would be able to see based on the hardware. ACU, which is known as Azure Compute Unit, which is similar to virtual CPUs. So ACU, how many ACUs you will get, what would be memory, what would be storage, scale instances, SLA for your web application, which you can see here, cost per hour, cost per month. So based on your requirement, you will select one plan. But it depends on your requirement. It depends on your application. So there would be standard requirement, hardware requirement. If you want feature view, click on feature view, where you would be able to see custom domain support for your plan, auto scaling, daily backup, staging slots, zone redundancy, VNet integration, single tenant system, cost per hour, cost month wise. So based on that, you would be able to select your plan. I'm going with S1. Let me close it. I'm going with S1, in which I will get 100 ACUs, that is standard plan. 1.75 GB RAM and 1 virtual CPU. That is okay for my lab. Let me click on next database. So we do not have any database, but if you have database, you can integrate to database, or you can create a new database as well. I'm not going to integrate any database. Let me click on next deployment, where you can select a source control like GitHub. So I do not have GitHub account as well. Let me go to next networking. On networking tab, you can see by default, you will get public access, which you can off. You will get network injection. What is network injection? Network injection is simple, where you can integrate your virtual network. Let me show you. If I'll on network injection, we can select our existing VNet, or we can create new VNet as well, where my web application will be connected and I can implement my firewall role, NSG rules. I'm not going to integrate my web application with network. Next, monitoring by default, application insights will be enabled, where you would be able to see your application success rate, so failure request, success request, and latency, performance, all requests, correct field request. You will get into application insights. That is also enabled by default. Click on next tags, review, and create your application. Meanwhile, let me connect my let me show you here. I was in my virtual machine, which I created in previous step. Let me show you here. You will get your application once deployment will be complete. So as you can see, deployment is in progress. So once deployment will be done, I'll show you how we will manage this application. Being a developer, how I can push my code, I'll show you. Okay, so now deployment is done. Let me go to my resource, go to application, where you would be able to see, you will get one URL here. Just wait for interface. As you can see, you will get one URL. Copy this URL, paste into your browser tab, where you will get default .NET page. Let me share this URL into chat box as well, so that you can also check. So by default, you will get .NET page, default .NET page, which will be provided by Azure. What I want my custom website, my organization website, how I can publish my website. First of all, if I'm working as a visual developer, correct, and I'm writing my code into .NET, so I will download publish profile, and I will write my code, map my code through Visual Studio down by this option, downloading publish profile. Other options, left hand side, you will see here we have deployment center. I'll go to deployment center. Well, I will get my source controls, and I can select my source controls. So you can see I can select GitHub, where my code will be available, my repositories will be available. So GitHub, Bitbucket, local Git, Azure repos. I can select external Git as well here. But right now, I'm not working as a developer. I'm working as an admin. So as an admin, I know FTP. What is FTP? So I'll go to FTPS credentials tab, where I will create a username and password. So you have to create a unique username for FTP, and then password, which should be 8 character long. So let me create a password, capital A, B, C at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Capital A, B, C at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to use same name, Sanjay 0001. Let me click on save. So you have to save credentials for FTPS. So once you will update FTPS, now how you will push your code to Azure. So let me show you. First of all, we should have a web application. So let me download a custom web application, a application template. So download HTML, CSS templates. Search this. You will get free CSS website, which you can see here, freecss.com. Let me copy and paste the URL into chat box. Now, here you will get website templates, which you can use for your lab practice. So simply what you need to do, like I'm going to download this Boxer template. So click on template, click on download. This will be downloaded as a zip folder, zip file into your local system. Go to your file explorer, go to downloads tab and extract. So once it will be extracted, you will get one folder in which you will get your all website content. Let me copy this content. Let me go to my desktop where I'm going to create a new folder, web, and inside web I'm going to paste my website content. Why I'm doing this? Just because I can easily navigate my path whenever I will move my web application content to Azure. Now, any idea which tool I can use for FTPS deployment? How I can transfer my file from Windows system to Azure? Any idea? Do we have any tool which we can use? So hope you heard about FileZilla. For Windows system, we will use FileZilla. Let me click on download FileZilla, which is a FTP client. So download FileZilla client. I'm going to use free version. It will be downloaded. Once it will be downloaded, let's install FileZilla on your local system. Click on agree. So decline. I don't want any Google Chrome. For anyone, yes. Next, 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 install. FileZilla tool will be installed on your local system. So you have to install FileZilla tool so that you can move your file from local system. As you can see, we have a web folder on our desktop in which we have our web content, which I have to move on Azure. Right now on Azure, we have one web application and where we have default application content which is provided by Microsoft. Let me copy this. Let me paste here my application URL, which you can see where I have default.net page. Okay, so let me show you how we will move our files. Once installation will be done, click on finish. So left hand side you will get your local system content, right hand side you will get your remote site. Remote site will be Azure web application. How we will connect? We have to provide host name, username, password. Correct? So I remember password capital A, B, C at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now host and username we will get from our web application, Azure web application. So left hand side on Azure web application, scroll down under properties. Under properties, scroll down. Here you will get your FTP hostname, FTPS hostname. So we have to copy FTPS hostname. Copy FTPS hostname and paste inside FileZilla under hostname tab. After then username. So username you will get here. FTP deployment username. Copy this username. Should be in the same format. Copy and paste here and click on quick connect. It will create a TLS connection first. Quick connect, do not save password, click on OK. First it will create a TLS connection and for which we need to accept certificate. TLS connection, after then your remote site will be connected where you can see Azure web application is connected here. And in www root folder we have a default HTML page for default website. Let me delete this. If I will delete default website, so you would be able to see now if I will refresh my URL, I'm getting here error. You do not have permission to view directory or page. Just because I deleted my default page. And if you will check in your system, you all will get the same error. So now I have to publish my code. So left hand side, I'll go to desktop. On desktop, we have web folder. Let's open web folder and select your content first. After then, drag your content from left and drop to right hand side. Drag and drop. So your files and folders will be moved to Azure. As you can see, file transfer is done, and now application hosting is also done. If I will refresh my URL, you can see my web application is hosted. Correct? That's how we can host web application using FTP. I hope that this part is clear to everyone. How to create Azure web application and how you will set up, configure, customize your web application as per your application content. Next option which I'm going to show you. Let's go back to Azure. Go back to your application. Left hand side, you will get deployment slots on your application. Click on deployment slots, where you can see we have one slot, which we can add another slot. Let me click on add slot. Slot name will be stage. You can give any name, but should be meaningful. I'm going to give you a stage. So now my URL will become sanjaycloud-stage.azurewebsite.net. That is okay. Do not clone settings. If you want, you can clone setting from Sanjay Cloud. That means my production website. But in that case, there would be connection strings for database, for other settings, for custom DNS, for SSL, which you have to change. I'm not going to clone those settings. Click on add. So a slot will be added here. Once slot will be added here, I'll show you what we have to do. Meanwhile, let me copy another website. Let me copy this folder and let me paste inside my virtual machine on desktop. Which I'm assuming my updated web application. So now assume on production, we have our older website. On staging slot, first we will test our updated web application. If there would be no bug, then we will swap our updated web application from stage to production. And how we will do that, I'll show you practically. Let me open this into a new tab. Let me open here first. So for stage, again, you will get a separate URL. Let's copy this URL, paste into your browser tab. As you can see, in my system, I opened two URL. On first URL, I have my production website, sanjaycloud.azurewebsite.net. On second URL, I have my staging slot website where I'm getting my default .NET page, sanjaycloud-stage, correct? So now on this staging slot, I have to publish my updated web application. Then I need to perform testing. After then, I will swap. So how we will do that? We will go to app services. We'll go to app services. We'll go to our staging slot. And on staging slot, left-hand side, you will again go to deployment center. On deployment center, you will go to FTP as credentials. Under staging slot, you will go to deployment center. Under deployment center, you will get FTPS credentials. And here again, we need to set username and password for staging slot also, so that I can connect my staging slot on FTP FileZilla tool and I can move my files to staging slot. I'm going to use same password and same username, capital ABC at 123456, capital ABC at 123456, password. Click on save credential. Remember one thing, host name will be different for stage. So left hand side, On staging slot, go to properties. Here you will get your FTP deployment username, which you can see that is different than production. So copy this username, open FileZilla tool inside your local system, paste your username here first, then password, and after then host name. Host name will be also different. So let's go back to your stage slot. Under properties, you will get FTP as host name. Copy this host name and paste inside FileZilla tool. Click on Quick Connect, and now again your website will be connected here. I'm going to delete my default page. If I'll delete my default page, let's check. Go back to your stage URL, refresh. You're getting error. On production, we have Boxer, that is this Boxer website. So do one thing now, move your content. So on desktop, let me go to desktop. Left hand side, here we have this web application content, and let me select all files and folders. Drag. Select, then drag from left and drop to right hand side. So once files will be transferred, go back to your stage URL, refresh your stage URL. As you can see, your updated website you will get on stage URL. So check your website, test your web application code, correct. If there is no bug, then do one thing, swap. Right now on production, I have this Boxer website. On stage, I have my updated website, which you can see here, correct. Now I'm going to swap. How we will swap? Let me show you. So first you need to go back to your application. So go back to your app services, and here you can see under deployment slots from left hand side, you will get swap option where you have your both slots, deployment, your production, and your stage slot. So click on swap, and then source will be stage and target will be production. Click on swap, and let's check. So let me go to my production website. Let me refresh production website. We will check in real time. Let me refresh again. No update. Refresh. No update. Refresh. No update. Refresh. In between this duration, my production website is working. There's no downtime. Refresh again. Refresh. So in backend, swapping is going on. And once swapping will be complete, you will get here new website. As you can see, now I'm getting new website. Correct? So just because swap is under process, as you can see, it's not completed. Once it will be completed, I will get here complete web application. As you can see now, I'm getting here complete web application. So in real time, it will be swapped. And now I'm getting my new website on my production URL. That is called deployment slot. That is called blue and green deployment. I hope this part is also clear. Next feature, next option. Let me explain you. Left hand side on your web application. Here you can see we have option for vertical scaling, where you can click on scale up and you can change your plan at any time. That is known as vertical scaling. Let me go to scale out, where we can configure auto scaling and manual scaling, horizontal scaling. So select scale out. How you are going to configure scale out, manually or rule based. Rule based means automatic, that means auto scaling. Manual means simply manual. I'm going with rule based. Then click on manage rule-based scaling. Here we have to select custom auto scale, scroll down, and we need to select based on the matrix we are going to create threshold. Minimum number of instance 1, maximum will be 2, default will be 1, and in center in rules tab, under rules tab you will get option add a threshold, that means add a rule. Right hand side you will get option. So based on the CPU utilization we are going to add our rule. So if our CPU utilization greater than or equals to 15%, let's make it lower, 15% for 5-minute duration, then do one thing, add 1 instance count. This would be my threshold for auto scaling. Save auto scaling. Now we are done with auto scaling. Configuration, go back to your application. How I can monitor, how I can check how many instances are right now available for my web application. So left hand side under monitoring tab, under monitoring you will get process explorer tab. Click on process explorer where you would be able to see current number of instances. So right now I have only 1 instance here, correct? Let me open Cloud Shell now. I'm going to create a loop. I'm going to create a loop. And to create loop, what I need a PowerShell script. PowerShell script. So let me show you module number 9, auto scale. Let me open into Visual Studio, Visual Code. So we have to execute these commands. Let me select PowerShell so that I can run endless loop where I can send HTTP, continuous HTTP request. Yes, no shot.
You copy that URL in the chat books because it's not coming here. What you have copied in the chat book.
This URL. We're talking
Yes.
about this URL. Okay, 1 second. Let me copy once again. Copy and paste.
Thank you.
Hope this is available.
Yeah.
Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a endless HTTP request on my web application so that I can increase my CPU utilization of my web application, and we will test auto scaling. Correct, which is not in our syllabus, but I'm going to show you so that we can understand. So first of all, I need to execute command. So let me do one thing. Let me run commands. So first I'm going to create a variable for resource group. So copy and paste your command here. My resource group name is M9RG1. If you are not sure, go to your portal, go to resource groups and check M9RG1, or you can check from your app services as well. Like you can search app service from search bar. You have one app service and that is in, let me open this app service to check my resource group. So resource group is M9RG1. So it should be same into your command, in your variable M9RG1. Then press enter. Then next command. Next command, create a variable for your web application. So copy this command, paste as it is. No need to change anything. After then, third command, which will create loop. HTTP request loop. Let me paste this command. So paste your command as it is, press enter. As you can see, now it will send HTTPS request, HTTP request, continuous HTTP request to your web application, which will increase CPU utilization of your web application. So on duplicate tab, I'm going on my app services. Left hand side on my app service, I'm going on Process Explorer under monitoring to check current number of systems. Right now we have only 1 instance. Okay, no worries. We have to wait for 5 minutes just because we configured 5-minute data point. So we have to wait for 5 minutes. In between this duration, I'm going to show you backup also. So left hand side under settings, you will get backups tab, where you would be able to see by default a default backup is there in every hour, every 1 hour. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create custom backup. So click on configure custom backup, where you have to select your storage account, and inside your storage account you have to select one container. So right now there's no container available in my storage account, so I'm going to create a new container. Container name will be backup. Let me click on create. Then your schedule, you can set a schedule for your backup, your frequency, and retention period for your backup data. So older backup data will be deleted after 60 days, which you can configure. You can add your database as well into backup. I'm not going to do that right now. Let me click on configure. Backup will be configured. Once backup will be configured, you will click on backup now. Click on backup now. Backup will be started. Backup job will be started. Let's go back to Process Explorer to check again instance. We have only one instance right now. So do one thing, let's wait for 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, you will get here 2 instances just because continuous HTTP request is going on. So let's wait for 5 minutes. I'm going to mute myself for 5 minutes and we will resume. So as you can see now, we have 2 instances into our web application. So auto scaling is done based on our threshold which we configured. So now I'm going to stop my loop. Let me stop my loop, HTTPS loop. If you want, practically we are done with this lab. If you want, you can check your application insights. So you have to search application insight from search bar, go to application insight, open application insights, and here you would be able to see server response time, 50 millisecond latency basically, availability of your application, server request, 19 requests. So left hand side you will get different options through which you would be able to monitor your application and you will get your insights for your application. Failure request, performance, availability, transaction search, live metrics. So we are done with this lesson. Let me show you next lesson. If you have any query related to Azure App Services, you can ask your question. Next lesson is configuring Azure container instances. So when it comes to container, how container is different than virtual machine. So when it comes to container, it means we're talking about Docker. When it comes to Docker, it means we're talking about microservices. So Docker and container, it comes under into microservices platform. So here you can see, first we will purchase one hardware. Top of our hardware, there would be a host operating system, and top of our host operating system, you will get your hypervisor. So host OS, which either I'm using as a hypervisor, might be ESXi or Hyper-V provided by Microsoft or Zen Server provided by Citrix. So I can decide I can purchase a license for ESXi, VMware, Microsoft Hyper-V or Citrix Zen Server, which I can use as a bare metal hypervisor on my server, where I will create virtual machine. So I will create my virtual machine for web application. Inside my virtual machine, I need a dedicated operating system. I need binary files and libraries for my web application and my application code. Same I need for another application. I have to create a separate virtual machine in which I need a separate operating system which should be isolated. So where I have to purchase, I have to invest in operating system licenses. If I'm going to create 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 100 virtual machines, I need that much licenses for operating system. Correct? And deployment time will be also higher. When it comes to container services, containers are lightweight, flexible, and faster as compared to virtual machine. Why? As you can see, top of your operating system, host OS, you will download Docker engine. You will install Docker engine, and top of your Docker engine you will create containers. Now inside container there would be no operating system. First of all, there's no operating system inside your container. You will bring your binary files libraries with dependencies, and you can host your application A, application B. You can create multiple containers for your different application, or might be application tiers. So app services for front end, back end, on database. You can create your tiers as well as a container. So that's why containers are lightweight, just because if you see here, there's no operating system. If there would be no operating system, no need to purchase any license for operating system first of all. There's no kernel installed inside your container. If there would be no kernel, it means deployment will be faster as compared to virtual machine. And they are lightweight, correct? So isolation, operating system, deployment, persistent storage, fault tolerance you will get. When it comes to interacting with hardware and host operating system, all containers, they will use shared kernel. That means they will use Docker engine kernel. So all containers, they will use shared kernel. When it comes to isolation, in virtual machine, you will get strong isolation, just because in all VMs, you will get a separate operating system which have a separate kernel, correct? So isolation you will get into virtual machine. When it comes to now Docker and container, as compared to Docker, like assume I'm working as a DevOps engineer where I'm configuring my applications on Docker or on Azure Kubernetes. So, or might be on Kubernetes services. So if I need same type of platform, same type of services on Azure platform. So we have Azure container instances which comes under into PaaS service. That means I don't have to create a virtual machine. No need to download Docker inside your virtual machine. First option, you can create VM, Windows, or Linux inside your virtual machine, inside Azure platform. After then you will download Docker inside your virtual machine. You will download and install Docker inside your virtual machine. After then you will create your containers inside your virtual machine. This would be your first option. Using Azure container instances, no need to create virtual machine, no need to download Docker inside your virtual machine. You will get a ready-to-use platform where you can directly bring your images. So fast startup time, public IP address connectivity and DNS name support you will get, isolation feature you will get, custom size you can customize the virtual CPU, RAM, persistent storage you will get, permanent storage, Linux and Windows containers you can host, co-schedule group you will get where you can host multi-tier application, virtual network deployment, that means integration of VNet also you will get so that you can filter your traffic on Azure container instances. So container groups where you can host your application tiers like front end, which you can see, which will be connected to internet, back end, which will be open on port number 1433 internally. Docker platform, again that is optional, not relevant, but yes, we need to understand. If I'm going to host my container on Docker, so what would be my preparation? So first you will bring a server, that means a hardware. Second, you will install your operating system, which would be either Windows, Linux, or Mac. And then you will download or you will install Docker engine on your operating system. So once you will install Docker, this would be your next layer. Top of your Docker, you will create your containers. How we will create containers? So first we will create images. Where we will create images? We will create our images under Docker Hub or under GitHub, so which would be our source control, where we can store our repositories. So Docker Hub, GitHub, or local Git. So where you will get images like Ubuntu Linux, Windows, Nginx, Alpine, Tomcat. So you will use Docker client, which would be a client command line tool, which work as a client. So using this client, you will pull or push. Push to save your images, pull to bring your images. So you will pull your images from Docker Hub to your Docker host, that means on this server. So first you will pull images. After pulling your image, you will create container using those images which you pulled. This would be the process of Docker and container. So demonstration, creating and configuring container instance, verifying deployment. So we have only introduction, remember here, for ACI, and now we have manage containers with Azure Container Services, container apps. So we can manage Azure container apps, which is recently introduced by Microsoft. So alternative to Azure Kubernetes services. What is Kubernetes? So Kubernetes is basically, it's an orchestrator which will manage deployment of your containers. Correct. So if we don't want to use Kubernetes into Azure, we can use Azure Container Apps, in which we would be able to host our application. So a container app will be connected to Azure Container Registry. That is a private repository. Azure Container Registry, that is known as private app, similar to GitHub or Docker Hub. You will get a private repository that is known as Azure Container Registry, in which you will store your images, your repositories. Correct. And then you would be able to use those images to host your application on Azure Container Apps. So integrates with Azure Container Registry, simplify complex infrastructure, manage your container orchestration. So automation will be there, similar to Kubernetes. Demonstration, create and deploy a container app and verify your deployment. So now we are done with this module. Let me show you how we will deploy container instance practically so that we can understand. So we need to search container. You can see here we have two options: container instance, container apps. Let me select a container instance. Click on create. Click on drop down. Select your existing resource group. Container name. So I'm going to give here cont1. You can give any name, totally up to you. Region Central India. Availability zone. No, I'm not going to select any availability zone, but yes, you can host your container into multi-AZ, and that is recently introduced by Microsoft. That is in beta version right now, preview. SKU. So we have different SKUs here right now. Standard is selected based on the infrastructure which I selected. So I'm going with standard. Image source. That is how you are going to host your application using quick start image, that is sample image, or might be you have your images into container registry, Azure Container Registry, or other registry like Docker Hub or GitHub. I'm going with sample images, quick start images. Let me click on drop down. You can see we have Hello World container, Alpine, Linux. I'm going with Hello World. Size of your container instance. Click on change size. You would be able to change your number of CPUs, RAM, and GPU. That is in preview. Click on OK. I'm going with default. Go to networking tab where you can see public access will be there. We have to provide a DNS name so that we can access our sample application. So let me give here Sanjay Cloud, my DNS name. Port 80 will be open. Click on review and create this container. So next Saturday would be our last class, and I will share a Google Drive link with all of you, in which you will get complete study material along with your labs for each module. Correct. And I would request all of you to perform your lab so that you can ask your question. Even after this course also, if there would be any query from your side, you can write a mail to our support team. Let me go to my resource. That means my container instance. And left hand side you will get FQDN, sorry, right hand side, which you need to copy. And first let me paste into chat box this URL. Second, let me paste into my browse tab. Okay, you will get your sample application. So as you can see, welcome to Azure Container Instances. That is my sample instance image application. You can customize by using Azure Container Instance, GitHub, or Docker Hub. Hope that is clear to everyone. So we are done with today's session